Hello everyone, it's Ranger at 64, and welcome back to another League of Legends lore reading video. Today, we will be reading An Intimate Evening at Oyster Bill by Jared Rosen. You will know joy, you will be a hero, and you will pass into legend as all great heroes do. The only price I ask for such treasures is you. The Cycle of Aslesh, Chapter 10, Verses 7. Bilgewater isn't particularly known for its cuisine, which makes Oyster Bill's Oyster Bar an interesting conundrum. Located in one of the city's poorer pockets, the establishment gained an impressive reputation over the years, with the entire venture held aloft by quote-unquote local celebrity and perpetrator Oyster Bill. Along with the Oyster Man's love of seafood and exaggerated stories, he also enjoys renting an extra room above the restaurant to various drifters and vagabonds. One such person being his most recent guest, an ecstatic warrior with few belongings, and an unseething ear-to-ear smile, who just kicked Malcom Graves horizontally through the dining room hall. I didn't do anything, but Graves moaned, shifting his toothpick to the other side of his mouth. You want one of the other ones? Senna, maybe, or Rango? Your lack of foresight now threatens millions of innocents, Malcom Graves, replies the cheery-sounding voice in an unfamiliar accent. I have questions about the little present you left on my shores, Viego of Camavor. The voice's owner moves purposefully through the cloud of dust and debris, her liquid whip blade suspended in a glittering arch around her, which in each step illuminates the dining restaurant as brilliant indigos of golds cast strange dancing shadows over everything. Messy black hair frames a thin face and violet eyes, all underlining by an oddly exuberant expression, while at her side rests a glowing sphere held by two hands cast from a foreign metal. This lady is Nyla, and Graves has been trying to avoid her for weeks. And let's just say it hasn't gone too well. Nyla arrived in Bilgewater seemingly overnight, and her presence immediately raised eyebrows across the city. From her odd habit of reciting various textual passages through the day, always while making complicated gestures with her palms, to her strange seven-hand motif armor forged from a pearlescent metal no one had ever recognized, or her instances that she hailed from Cathcon, even though the last full-blooded Cathani hadn't stepped foot in Valorant soil in over 700 years. Then, she started killing sea serpents, 40, 50, 60 fathoms long. When any ship was threatened, Nyla rushed down to the docks and shored across the surface. Calmed with a smile, her weary frame launched itself towards the writhing wrecks of her foes. As word spread about her, she began to ask the port's grateful sailors if they knew anything about a so-called Order of Sentinels, and that was when Graves started running. Now that Nyla's found him, she doesn't seem happy. Or rather, she isn't acting happy. She seems discontenting cheerfully with her pleasant grin that never breaks, and her demeanor and voice that stayed locked in unnatural positivity at all hours of the day. It's this peculiarity that makes most people unable to read her intentions. Besides, her pathological need to fight every big things, and that makes conversations with the women hard to navigate. Don't know nothing about Viego, Graves lies, shifting through the rubble for his gun. I believe it was you who sealed him in Aloe am I correct? Nyla smiles cheerfully. Taking another 2 steps forward, her legs moved in a curious, artful pattern like a coiled snake about to strike. Don't lie. You are a man-sized. Killing you would be very easy for me. Not that easy, Graves snorts. New destiny finally in his hand. Savoring the moment to turn the tables, he fires 3 rounds directly into Nyla's torso. Or, at least, he thinks he does. The bullet seems to move around her, or maybe she moves around them. It's like firing his gun into deep water. A thought Graves finds inexplicably unsettling. Nyla's wide smile twitches at the sides of her mouth. Unbeknownst to Graves, she is unable to feel anger or any other emotions beyond a radiant joyfulness. But she knows she would want to right now, were to it be possible, to kill him. She whips out the gun out of his hands and knocks it to the far side of the restaurant before bisecting a metal table next to his head with a brutal second strike of her whipped blade. For a brief moment, Graves smears. He sees phantasmal blue hands in the air around Nyla. But maybe this is his imagination. He's been getting hit in the head a lot lately. An interesting armament, Nyla muses. I imagine it works well against lesser opponents. So what does that make you? Nyla didn't answer. Instead, she sheathes her weapon within the sphere, offering a brief reconciliation under her breath. That Graves can't quite make out. My apologies. Based on your fighting style, you're not the sentinel I am looking for. Sweet Tommy Kench. Ain't you supposed to be some kind of hero? Graves yelled, sitting up among wooden fragments and twisted metal. I'm a hero too, when viewed in a certain light. So lay off, will ya? Graves exhales. Damn. Nice magic though. I gotta respect that. Nyla offers another recitation. Her hands shifted as she mouths the words beneath her breath, smiling immensely in the dark. Thank you, Malcom Graves. I gave much to wield it. I would prefer it you'd called me Graves. I wouldn't, replies Nyla. There is great power in a true name, Malcom Graves. Remember that. If you say so. You folks in the back hear that? Or should we speak up? Right on cue, a voice rings out from the streets. We're here for the Serpent Slayer! Nyla turns to face a half-dozen mercenaries peeking through the hole she ripped through in the wall. Her eyes drift past the men to a massive, pale something shifting on the planks behind them. And her heart skips a beat. She is often followed by disgruntled killers, but she hasn't seen one of these before. I am she, Nyla replies, her attention now fixed on the creature. What do you want exactly? You're losing your bosses a lot of money. Think you can't just flood the market with serpent catch? We own those docks and those ships, and now, as of now, we own you. What is that creature? Nyla asked Graves, ignoring the mercenaries' plea. A deep eater, muttered Graves. They chow down on the anchors that sink to the sea floor. It gives them a taste for people. Mean and real dumb. So these idiots drag 'em up and sink 'em on marks they don't like. Nyla's eyes flash with excitement. How big do they get? I don't know. 10, 15 oars. That one looks pretty big to me. Interesting. An enemy of worth. Hey! Shouts a mercenary. When I'm talking to you, you listen or you die. Understand what I'm saying? Yes, I believe I do. I am Nyla of the 7th layer. May your battle sing across history. Nyla whips her blade outward, its glimmering water forming 2 sharpened prongs that dance through the air with ghostly radiance. Whatever the mercenaries were expecting, it wasn't this, and they mutter nervously as the weapon shifts and expands. They don't really know it, but none of them will leave the encounter alive. The 7th layer is not simply a title, but a mythical order steeled to face opponents of imaginable power and scale. Self-trained killers are merely pebbles on the road to true challenge, and tonight, this so-called Deep Eater is the only foe of worth. A massive isopod with sticky, flesh-colored plates and a mean-looking maw of bloody teeth. From the depths of Nyla's being, a hungry joy begins to swell. What happens next is a blur. Nyla bounds across the room with frightening speed, cutting through her unassuming opponents while wearing a same cheerful, unmoving smile. Each strike of her blade connects with a force of towering ocean wave, yet the dancing water is sharp as polished stone. Nyla glides between blows, beautiful and deadly, as her enemies are blasted apart. In seconds, all that's left is the deep water and the Deep Eater. Considering that words 10 oars had suggested a beast of much larger proportions, this one isn't too bad. About the size of a covered wagon. Not the most exciting opponent Nyla ever faced, but here in Bilgewater, it was something that would get people talking. They'd remember this story, and they would remember this victory, and that was all that mattered. Nyla leaps onto its back, her formless blade flickering in the night's air. Beasts of the deep, may you find joy, she sings, and she slices the monster clean in half. So, what exactly are you looking for the Sentinels for? Asked Graves, consigned to either having this conversation or being cut into little pieces. We disbanded mostly, and I pawned all of my stuff. So you're not getting those magic rocks or whatever. Viego of Camavor will be free himself one day. Nyla replies, her smile now kind, friendly even. The magic binding him is Hellion, and it is weakening over time. My people are in unimaginable danger. Hey, we beat him once, replies Graves. He's strong, but we can probably do it again. He is not the true threat, Malcom Graves, says Nyla. His ruinations write new magic into this world. An act that drives demonkind berserk, enough to stir their primeval forebears. 10 lords, long forgotten, she continues, tapping the sphere at her side, whose must never be allowed to wake. Demons, huh? Says Graves. You're not a demon, are you? No, not entirely. The aesthetic performs another hand gesture, reciting something underneath her breath. As she speaks, Graves gazes at her sphere of prismatic liquid, which seems to draw him in. An unconscious smile curls at the edge of his lips, as high-pitched, whispering laughter rings in his ears. It seems like the metal hands are almost offering it up to him. "Do not look too closely," Nyla warns, and Graves snaps back to attention. "The beast is always hungry." Nyla claps her hands on her hips. "Ah, but the hour is late, and I fear you have no further answers to give me. I will retire to my room," she says matter-of-factly, walking past a confused Graves as she circles the damaged dining room and climbs up the restaurant stairwell. "If you encounter any monstrosities of note, come find me, so I can slay them. If you encounter Oyster Bill, tell him that I apologize for tonight's damage." It is good to meet a fellow hero, Malcom Graves." The door then closes upstairs, and the woman is now gone. Graves flicks his broken toothpick to the ground, bitten through it all in the excitement. He reaches for a replacement, but finds none. So instead, gazes quietly out onto the streets, where 6 dead bodies and 2 halves of a giant marine louse are scattered. "The Sentinels ruined my life," he says, to no one in particular. "Neat lady, though. Very neat lady."